Picture this. You wake up in the morning, stretch, and feel that familiar stiffness in your knees or fingers. Maybe you chalk it up to aging or tell yourself it's just part of getting older. But what if I told you that the pain in your joints might not just be from wear and tear? It could actually be coming from the foods you eat every single day? Here's the shocking part. Many of these foods are ones most people think are harmless, even healthy. Doctors often don't emphasize them in casual conversations because nutrition advice can be controversial and time consuming. But behind the scenes, research shows that certain everyday foods can spark hidden inflammation, strip away cartilage protection, and accelerate the very damage you're trying to slow down. Let's break this down simply. Your joints are cushioned by cartilage, lubricated by fluid, and supported by surrounding muscles and ligaments. When you eat foods that trigger inflammation, your immune system sends out what are basically fire alarms inside your body. Over time, those alarms lead to swelling, stiffness, and tiny tears in joint tissues. Think of it like pouring acid on a cushion. The damage might not show instantly, but it builds quietly until one day you're dealing with chronic pain or mobility issues. Now, here's why this is so sneaky. These foods don't just attack your joints directly, they mess with your whole system. They can increase blood sugar spikes, lead to weight gain, which puts even more pressure on your knees and hips, and fuel systemic inflammation that spreads throughout the body. So while you might think, oh, my knee hurts because I'm getting older, the truth might be that your lunch is partly to blame. And here's the kicker. Most of these foods are staples in modern diets. They're in your pantry, your fridge, even the healthy section of your grocery store. We're talking about foods that fly under the radar because they're marketed as convenient, tasty, or even doctor approved. But don't worry, this isn't about scaring you into never enjoying food again. It's about shining a light on the hidden enemies that could be worsening your joint pain and giving you better options so you can stay active, mobile, and independent as you age. Imagine being able to climb stairs without wincing, kneel down to garden without hesitation, or play with your grandkids without feeling like your joints are made of rusty hinges. That's what happens when you start making small but powerful changes in your diet. So, which foods are quietly sabotaging your joints? Let's dive into the first culprit, a food so common that you've probably eaten it this week thinking it was harmless, maybe even healthy. Let's start with one of the most surprising culprits: refined grains, especially white bread and pasta. For decades, we've been told that bread is the staff of life. Doctors sometimes even encourage patients to eat more grains because whole grains are packed with fiber and nutrients. But here's the catch. Most of what fills grocery store shelves isn't whole grain at all. It's refined. That means the outer bran and germ, where all the fiber, vitamins, and minerals live, have been stripped away, leaving behind a starchy core that quickly turns into sugar in your body. Why does that matter for your joints? Because when you eat refined grains, your blood sugar spikes, triggering an inflammatory response. Imagine tossing gasoline on a small fire. That's what high glycemic foods like white bread do inside your body. The flames of inflammation spread, and over time they can target vulnerable tissues like cartilage and joint linings. Now here's where it gets sneaky. Refined grains don't always look like junk food. A soft sandwich roll, a warm bowl of pasta, even a bagel you grab on the go, all of these can disguise themselves as harmless, even wholesome. You might even see words like enriched or fortified on the label, which makes them sound healthier than they really are. But the science is clear. Multiple studies link diets high in refined grains to higher markers of inflammation. And for people dealing with arthritis or chronic joint pain, these foods can act like fuel to the fire. In fact, some researchers now believe that refined grains could accelerate the breakdown of collagen, the protein that gives your joints flexibility and cushioning. Think about it this way. Your joints are like the hinges on a door. Collagen and cartilage are the oil that keeps those hinges moving smoothly. Refined grains? They're like dust and sand, grinding down the hinge every time you move. And here's the frustrating part. Because bread and pasta are often part of family traditions or quick meals, most people eat them daily without realizing the toll. Over months and years, that damage adds up. What starts as just a little stiffness can turn into long-term inflammation and irreversible joint wear. But before you panic, here's the good news. This isn't about giving up bread forever. It's about choosing smarter options. Whole grains like quinoa, brown rice, and oats digest more slowly, don't cause the same sugar spikes, and actually deliver nutrients that protect joint tissue. In fact, some studies suggest that diets rich in whole grains lower inflammation markers compared to refined, grain-heavy diets. So, the next time you're reaching for that white sandwich roll, ask yourself, is this worth the hidden cost to my knees and hips? Swapping even half your refined grains for whole options can make a noticeable difference in how your joints feel over time. And refined grains are just the beginning. There's another food, one you've probably treated as a favorite comfort meal, that's quietly aging your joints faster than you realize. Now let's talk about one of the biggest offenders when it comes to joint health: processed meats. Think of bacon, sausages, hot dogs, deli slices, or that ham sandwich you throw together for lunch. These foods might be convenient and tasty, but for your joints, they're like adding years to your biological age every time you eat them. Here's why. Processed meats are loaded with compounds called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs for short. These are harmful molecules formed when proteins or fats combine with sugar during processing or cooking at high temperatures. AGEs accelerate inflammation and oxidative stress in the body, and your joints are especially vulnerable. Over time, they stiffen collagen, the flexible protein that acts like shock absorbers for your knees, hips, and fingers. Imagine taking a soft sponge and slowly turning it into a brittle brick. That's what AGEs can do to your joint tissue. But that's not all. Processed meats are also packed with preservatives like nitrates and nitrites, which the body can convert into compounds that further fuel inflammation. And when your joints are already struggling with daily wear and tear, this extra chemical stress pushes them closer to breakdown. Let's make this more real. Have you ever noticed feeling more achy or stiff the morning after a heavy meal with bacon, pizza, or fast food burgers? That's not just coincidence. It's your body responding to the inflammation triggered by those additives and AGEs. For people with arthritis, even small amounts of processed meats can worsen symptoms noticeably. And here's the kicker. These foods are often marketed as quick protein fixes. You'll hear things like, grab some deli turkey for a lean snack, or a sausage patty for breakfast keeps you full. The truth is, the short-term convenience comes with long-term costs, especially for your joints. In fact, large-scale studies show that people who regularly consume processed meats not only face higher risks of heart disease and diabetes, but also report more chronic pain and reduced mobility. So what's the alternative? The answer isn't cutting out protein, it's upgrading it. Swapping processed meats for lean, fresh proteins like chicken breast, fish, beans, or even plant-based options can give your body the nutrients it needs without the joint-harming baggage. Fish like salmon, sardines, and mackerel in particular are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, which act like natural anti-inflammatories. Think of them as joint lubricants, keeping those hinges moving smoothly instead of grinding with every step. The bottom line? Every time you skip processed meat, you're giving your joints a break from a chemical storm. It might feel like a small choice in the moment, but over months and years, it can mean the difference between climbing stairs with ease and struggling with stiffness. But we're not done yet, because there are still 3 more foods so common you might eat them every single week, that are quietly wearing down your joints even if you think they're safe. We've already revealed refined grains and processed meats, but believe it or not, there are still everyday foods lurking in your kitchen that may be quietly harming your joints. These next 3 culprits are some of the most common staples in modern diets, and chances are you've eaten at least one of them this week. Let's break them down one by one. Food number 3, sugary beverages. Sodas, sweetened juices, and even so-called energy drinks are one of the fastest ways to inflame your joints. Why? Because they're loaded with refined sugar, which spikes your blood glucose and triggers an inflammatory cascade. When you drink sugary beverages, your body releases higher levels of insulin, and in turn, inflammatory chemicals flood your system. These chemicals don't just target your blood vessels or waistline, they also find their way to your cartilage and joint linings. Over time, sugar acts like rust, corroding the smooth movement of your joints and fueling stiffness. Studies show that people who regularly consume sugary sodas report higher rates of arthritis symptoms. And here's the irony. Some fruit drinks marketed as healthy have as much sugar as a can of soda, so you could be sipping inflammation without even realizing it. Food. 4. Fried foods. Think French fries, fried chicken, onion rings, or even those crispy snacks you love at parties. The problem isn't just the extra calories, it's the trans fats and oils used in frying. These fats generate free radicals in the body, which damage cells, weaken cartilage, and promote inflammation. Over time, eating fried foods can literally accelerate joint aging. It's like taking the hinges on a door and dipping them in sticky grease mixed with sand. Movement becomes harder, grinding increases, and breakdown speeds up. Even worse, many fried foods are cooked in oils that are reused multiple times in restaurants, creating even more toxic compounds. These compounds, once in your bloodstream, can linger in joint tissues and fuel long-term stiffness and pain. Food number 5, dairy overload. Now, this one might surprise you. Dairy products like cheese, cream, and whole milk are controversial when it comes to joint health. For some people, they don't cause noticeable problems. But for others, especially those with sensitivities, dairy proteins such as casein can trigger low-grade inflammation. The result? More joint pain, swelling, or stiffness after consuming heavy amounts of cheese or full-fat dairy. And while dairy does provide calcium and vitamin D, which are good for bones, the potential inflammatory reaction in sensitive individuals can outweigh those benefits. What's the takeaway here? It's not necessarily about cutting dairy out completely. It's about paying attention to your body. If you notice your joints ache more after pizza night or cheese-heavy meals, it might be worth experimenting with dairy alternatives like almond milk, oat milk, or plant-based cheeses to see if your symptoms improve. So there you have it. Sugary drinks, fried foods, and excessive dairy. 3 everyday foods that quietly chip away at joint health while sneaking into your weekly diet. Together with refined grains and processed meats, they form a hidden network of culprits that accelerate stiffness, pain, and cartilage breakdown. But here's the encouraging news. Just as foods can harm your joints, other foods can heal and protect them. And once you know the swaps to make, your knees, hips, and hands can start feeling younger and more flexible. Now that we've uncovered the 5 common foods that silently harm your joints, let's flip the script. Because here's the truth. Your body is incredibly resilient. Just as poor food choices can fuel inflammation and pain, the right foods can act like natural medicine, cooling inflammation, rebuilding cartilage, and keeping your joints smooth and flexible well into your later years. Think of this as giving your joints a daily tune-up. Instead of grinding and squeaking, they glide with ease when you fuel them properly. Let's look at some of the top joint healing foods you can start adding to your plate today. Fatty fish, nature's joint lubricant. Salmon, sardines, and mackerel are packed with omega-3 fatty acids, which act like natural anti-inflammatory agents. These healthy fats reduce swelling in the synovial fluid, the liquid that cushions your joints, making movement smoother and less painful. Just 2 servings a week can make a noticeable difference. If fish isn't your thing, plant-based options like chia seeds, flax seeds, and walnuts also provide a good omega-3 boost. Colorful fruits and vegetables. The body's anti-rust coating. Berries, oranges, spinach, and broccoli are bursting with antioxidants like vitamin C and beta-carotene. These compounds fight free radicals, which are like microscopic rust particles that damage cartilage over time. By loading up on colorful produce, you're essentially coating your joints with protection. Citrus fruits in particular help your body produce collagen, the protein that cushions and supports your joints. Olive oil, liquid gold for flexibility. Instead of cooking with butter or frying oils, switch to extra virgin olive oil. It's rich in healthy monounsaturated fats and anti-inflammatory compounds that not only support heart health, but also reduce joint stiffness. Think of olive oil as grease for your hinges. It keeps things moving smoothly. Turmeric and ginger, nature's painkillers. These spices have been used for centuries in traditional medicine, and modern science now confirms their benefits. Curcumin in turmeric and gingerol in ginger both have strong anti-inflammatory effects, rivaling some over-the-counter medications, but without the side effects. Adding them to your meals or drinking them as teas can be a powerful way to soothe aching joints naturally. Legumes and whole grains, the foundation builders. Beans, lentils, quinoa, and oats are rich in fiber, protein, and minerals like magnesium, all crucial for bone and joint strength. Unlike refined grains, these foods digest slowly, keeping blood sugar stable and inflammation low. They also provide plant-based protein to help maintain the muscles that support your joints. Green tea, a gentle healer. Green tea is loaded with polyphenols, which protect cartilage and reduce inflammation. Replacing sugary sodas or coffee refills with a soothing cup of green tea is one of the easiest swaps you can make for your joints. The point isn't to overhaul your diet overnight. Small, consistent changes make the biggest difference. Swapping white bread for quinoa, soda for green tea, or processed meats for grilled salmon may seem simple, but over months and years, those choices add up to stronger, more flexible joints. Imagine being able to walk further, climb stairs with ease, or dance at a family wedding without worrying if your knees will give out. That's the future you create when you shift from joint-harming foods to joint-healing ones. Doctors may not always emphasize food as part of joint health, but the science is clear. Your diet can either be your joint's worst enemy or their greatest ally. By cutting back on the 5 hidden culprits and embracing these healing foods, you give yourself the best chance at staying active, independent, and pain-free well after 60.